Hey, what's up? All right. My name is Bevan.
This is Alexa.
And we are about to do a CFI mock oral exam for your CFI Checkride.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go.
Task G, risk management, cons and pros with this. You want to make sure that the pros outweigh the cons before you go out and venture on a long cross country or just even a regular flight. There's a saying, there's bold pilots and there's old pilots. There's no bold old pilots, so you want to make sure that you're keeping yourself in check as well as your passengers or any external forces, and we'll go into that in a little bit. Number one, principles of risk management. You want to accept no unnecessary risk. If there isn't a reason why you get from point A to point B, then why go out there and blast and try? You don't know what the risk could be until it maybe already happens to you, and it could be catastrophic even as far as death. You want to make risk decisions at an appropriate level. Obviously, as a PIC, you're the pilot in command. You're not going to allow your passengers to boss you around. You make the decisions. You are ultimately responsible for everything, not them. The FAA is going to come after you. Accept risk when only the benefits outweigh the cost. There's not very many scenarios I can think of this, but we'll go over one on that risk matrix I have here. Integrate risk management into all planning levels at all times. So evaluate your risk during the pre-flight, when you're in flight, and after you land. What are the risks of taxiing from the FBO to here if there's construction? Something like that. Make it applicable to any phase of flight. Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, moving on to risk management process. You want to identify the risk. The risk might be thunderstorms, engine failure, carbon monoxide poisoning, whatever it may be. What is the level of the risk? Is it severe or negligible? Is it improbable or frequent? You want to analyze how you can control these risks. Sometimes they're out of your control. Make controlled decisions, maybe waiting for weather to pass by. Me and Bevan went to Jekyll Island. We got stranded there for 2 days because we couldn't leave the low overcast field. And there was a guy there, remember, he took off 800-foot overcast. We don't know if he had an instrument rating, but still he was in a bad mood, demanding these kids get in the plane. That is not an environment where it would have a potentially good outcome. So I think he had a diversion later on, but hope the guy is safe.
Real fast, can you give me a specific scenario where, and use this risk management matrix and see where you're at as far as probability and...
Okay, I have 2 examples. I have a high risk and a low risk one.
Okay.
So, for example, my pointer. Say you're coming from across country and you notice your alternator dies. This would be a low risk. Say your alternator died and you have 30 minutes to an hour to get on the ground before your battery dies and you lose all electric capabilities of the aircraft. I'm going to start shutting down things that are non-essential, so maybe the lights on the airplane, that's a big one. Maybe COM 2, just keep COM 1 up there, or something like that that you can mitigate that risk. And you know that your alternator dies, so you have 30 minutes to an hour, but you're not going to follow the sky. It's not a dramatic thing where it could result in death. So that would be negligible risk severity, and especially if you have a handheld radio too, just plug that right in. Squawk 7600 in case it does die. Talk to them through your handheld radio. You're not going to follow the sky. Yeah, you should get it fixed when you land, but worry about that when you land.
Mm-hmm.
And the risk of this could be improbable or extremely improbable based on the alternator. You want to give it to your mechanic and he can give you the definite answer. But I would say that this situation would fall in the green area.
Okay.
Low risk.
All right, perfect.
Moving on to high risk situation. In Florida, we are frequently known for really bad thunderstorms, summertime, hot day, 2 p.m., whatever. You don't want to be taken off into that because that could result in a catastrophic end result. If you're blasting through a thunderstorm with severe downdrafts and updrafts, be food barred, not knowing where you're at, spatial disoriented. And we know that the thunderstorms happen frequently in Florida.
Yes,
So
they do.
maybe not planning the flight around central thunderstorm time. Maybe go early in the day or later at night.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a catastrophic risk and a frequent risk because those happen all the time.
Yeah.
You can even count on your hands how many times that
Those
happens.
are both really good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
Any questions with any of those?
Not with any of that.
Okay. So those are my 2 scenarios. We went over the level of risk, how to assess the risk to combat those types of situations. There's also some checklists and acronyms you can use to help mitigate those risks. And I'm going to go kind of out of order because the PAVE kind of goes into the I'm safe checklist. So I'm just going to draw it out here for you. PAVE. I'm safe. And the 5 P's. Okay, so the P in the PAVE checklist is the pilot. And I think this relates most to the I'm safe checklist. This is concerning you. You are the pilot in command and you are ultimately responsible for making any decisions. Obviously don't take a risk if you're not feeling well that day, or if you're running a fever, obviously you're not 100%, why waste your time or get into something that you can't get out of. Medication, I have a list of the FAA approved medications. This could be anything over the counter like Dayquil, NyQuil, even Zyrtec. I had to fix my allergies and take Claritin or Allegra because it was on the do not fly list. Are you taking NyQuil, Dayquil? You don't want to go flying if you are. IVOPM is a big one too. Stress. Are you stressed out right now? Do you have a lot going on at home? Maybe you're not focused on flying the plane right now. You're focused daydreaming about whatever you might be stressing out about. Alcohol. You drank last night. Even if it's well past 8 hours bottle of throttle, what if you're a light drinker and you overdrink and you're still hungover? Maybe you need a little bit more time before you go blasting off. Fatigue. Are you tired? Did you get enough sleep last night? I know if I'm tired, I'm not thinking about flying. I'm thinking about when I'm going to take my next nap. Okay. And then moving on to eating. Did you eat that day? Obviously, if you're hungry, you're probably thinking about your next sandwich, not...
Angry. They call it
I
angry.
get angry too, yeah. You're not going to be thinking about flying, that's for sure. So you want to make sure that you minimize those risks before they become more severe or prevalent.
And that's something you can really do at home before you even leave to go to the airport. You can have that figured out.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay. And then moving on to A, this is airplane. And this can kind of go into a Sparrow acronym. Is your plane airworthy? Does the landing gear need to be fixed? Things like that. You don't want to go off, well, it seems fine now, let me just go off there and travel 250,000 miles and I'll handle it when I get on the ground. No. You need to make sure that everything is almost perfect because in aviation you would rather be ahead of the game than behind.
GPS updated,
will fly
all that
you.
stuff.
GPS updated. So the S would be supplements, the P, placards, A, airworthiness, radio license, you need one for the plane and for yourself if you're traveling internationally. Registration, every 3 years. If it's out of registration, don't go off and flying. Owner's manual. Weight and balance. This is anything you need before taking off anyways, but it can also mitigate risk as well. If your plane's too heavy, empty out some baggage or tell the person not to come. Okay, so that's it for the airplane one. Moving on to environment. This kind of goes into like currency versus proficiency. Right now, I am current, but I'm not proficient, so I would reduce that risk and have someone that's more seasoned IFR pilot or someone that's more proficient to go along with me to mitigate those risks. I don't want to get myself into a situation where, I have to think twice about it. The next one is external pressures. Again, don't let your passengers pressure you or any other pressure. If you have to go to work, for example, I took my grandpa flying. We went down to Fort Pierce and I had to work at 4. Even though I left at 9 a.m., a thunderstorm, lo and behold, rolled in and my boss was on the phone, you better get here at 4. No, Outback is not worth my life. I'm gonna wait out this thunderstorm, and we left 2 hours later. So that's a good example of external pressure.
That is a good example.
The 5 P's: pilot, plane, passengers, plan, programming. This kind of like all ties together with everything else too. So the pilot, are you stressed out? Medication stress, any of that. If you're not feeling safe, if you have to ask anyone if you should go, the answer is probably no. Plane, are you comfortable in the plane? Maybe it's a new airplane you're trying to fly. Make sure that you're comfortable before you take off. Just bring someone that knows a little bit more about the plane to help mitigate those risks. Passengers, again, you don't want them forcing you to do anything that you're not comfortable with. With that, you want to have a plan. Whatever you're going out blasting off doing, always have a plan and maybe a backup plan, because how many times in aviation we plan to do something and something else ends up happening, you know? So always have a backup plan, stay ahead of the airplane, because the airplane will fly you if you don't fly it. Programming, make sure your GPS, your Garmin 430 is up to date with that. Maybe file an IFR flight plan or whatever, and stay along those lines. And if you're not unfamiliar, just brief yourself or ask someone else and get proficient. Any questions with that?
No? That's good. So that's task G. So you've done B, E, and G, just like that.
Okay,
That's good.
sweet.